doesn't like
Before we begin, do you guys have any notes for us that would be helpful? Any ways you'd like us to refer to the podcast, or?
If you could refer to it as pure gold,
Okay.
that would be great.
We call it, like, the official name would be the Okie Show?
Yeah.
Okay.
The only note that I have is just eat the mic. You know,
Go and keep it up there the whole time.
They're shotgun mics. I still like them.
Leave it almost on your chin.
Yeah, like that's it always lands here for me.
Okay.
But yeah. Well, we are live on Facebook Live, and we have no viewers. So hi, no one.
Hello. Hello to all of you.
And okay, so here we go. Are we rolling? Sweet. I'm still. Yeah, you have to forgive me because I'm still geeking out over this whole situation.
He's shell shocked.
I'm just not used to having a camera to look to and like all this stuff. Yeah, like. This I love that because this place was too classy, so we had to dumb it down a little bit with our paper
Having the
sign.
Okie Show Sharpie.
Yeah. Keeps you humble.
Yeah. We're the Okie Show,
it has to be
homegrown.
Oklahoma homegrown.
All right. Hello and welcome to the Okie Show, the podcast that explores the homelands, oh man, I'm still getting used to this new intro. Explores the heartlands entertainment industries. Here with two filmmakers. Introduce yourselves to the show, everybody.
My name is Brian Laws.
And I'm Nick Dillard.
And you guys are two filmmakers that had a short in the Okie Shorts this year for Dead Center.
Correct, yes.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Our short was called Tempo. It played in, like you said, the Okie Shorts. And it was an idea that Nick originally came to me with, I guess a little bit over a year ago, maybe almost a year and a half ago. Mm-hmm. As a script he'd written that he was just ready to make into a short, and him and I both had agreed, I guess we'd waited too long to make one so far in our life. So went ahead and just jumped on it, and we're ready to make it happen.
Nice.
And we're really honored to have it in Dead Center.
Dude, yeah. And it's so good, you guys. It is so good. If you haven't gotten to see Tempo, will it be available for people to watch at any point?
I think eventually. We have a couple more festivals that we're waiting to hear back from. So right now we just have a trailer up.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. And so what we're going to be talking about, dear listeners, is basically we're talking about crossing over from faith-based filmmaking into the secular world, taking that leap of faith, because these two guys also work at an awesome place called Life Church, and you guys are two Christian filmmakers as well. And so we're going to talk all about that. I also, again, I'm still getting used to the environment. I'm still a little flustered because I'm not used to having a camera on us, but I should reintroduce our guest co-host, Neil Newby. Welcome back to the show.
I am so happy to be back.
How did you murder Kelly?
Oh, I took her to the river, fed her some delicious supplements, and there she went. There she goes.
You fed her supplements and then kicked her into
the river?
Yeah.
I was like, hey, swim back. You're going to have a perfectly looking six-pack.
And she never made it.
Never did.
No, Kelly's home. She's got the kiddos on vacation and all that kind of stuff, so she'll be back at a later date. But in the meantime, we've got this schmuck. So.
Hello once again from Schmuckville.
So guys, let's get into it. I'm really curious. First of all, why do you think it's so hard for people from the faith-based filmmaking background to cross over into the secular world?
I'll answer a little bit. You feel free to jump in, Brian. So for me, what I've noticed is, at least growing up, so I started film at a church, and I've never really done work outside of a church, outside of like some passion projects or some weddings, and I think some of it can be hard just from the standpoint of the culture that is in a church can be very forgiving, because just the nature of it and stuff like that, whereas the secular world is more worried about like excellence and delivering and stuff like that, which isn't a bad thing at all. Like that's not a bad thing at all. I think it's just kind of a culture shift.
Right.
And some people and some filmmakers like admire that and want to jump into it because they're ready to kind of see what they're made of. And other people are just kind of fine with being in the church world and doing stuff like that. And I'm also not saying like things can't be good within the church.
Yeah.
Obviously, I just think that in the church world you can be more forgiving, and sometimes you have to be responsible for your own growth within environments like that.
Yeah.
So
I'm always fascinated with how churches are such a great place to cut your teeth in filmmaking. Like, why do you think that is? Like, why do you think that churches have such a great incubator for filmmaking as opposed to other places?
Well, I do think it's probably more of a recent occurrence to see film in churches in general. So maybe it's a sphere that typically hasn't been as involved with filmmaking, and so maybe in that regard, it's allowed people to come in that maybe in less traditional avenues to come in and learn there in maybe just a less a culture that's still growing, I guess, in their filmmaking. I mean, they're still, I don't want to say a childlike, but still like, I don't know if churches were doing film 50 years ago, but we all know there was cinema back then. So that would be my guess, at least.
Man, because I think back at, like, do you remember whenever the lyrics to the, wow, I can't remember.
the iMag.
Yeah, like the projector thing, the lady would be like switching out the words and all that kind of, like, that was as far
I don't
as
know if I
technology
ever
took us.
experienced that.
I never did.
No.
What? Did I just go to a really crappy small church? Well, we had that, and it was hilarious because I was just thinking, like, there's got to be something better than this. And then now you see with Life Church, it's bonkers.
Yeah, technology is just so integrated, whereas probably only 10 years ago it really wasn't, or maybe 20 years ago for sure it wasn't.
Yeah.
So I guess essentially it feels like maybe a little bit like the Wild West, like there's a lot of trailblazing still happening with filmmaking in the church, and in that for that reason I think that makes it a place that a lot of people cut their teeth, like you said, and can have a lot of quick growth in.
Yeah.
And so, did you guys start out together in the church, and that's how you started out your careers? Have you always worked together?
I guess only a month apart. I mean, we go ahead, Nick.
Well, yeah, like Brian and I have known each other because we started working at Life Church, and he started first, and then I came in a month after him, and then we just kind of, we became friends and stuff like that, and then I think our passion for filmmaking grew around the same time of trying to do stuff on the side.
And we became better friends outside of work as well as inside. So even nowadays where we're not still working together at the church, our friendship its birth. So
Well, okay, and I'm curious because when did you leave Life Church?
Just this past week.
Wow, is that Jeez. Because I worked with you guys like on several different projects, and you're not going to be there anymore. That makes me sad.
I'll still be around, but not there.
Okay.
So it was a fun ride, but now it's time.
You're moving on to greener pastures.
Yes.
Am I allowed to ask where you've moved on to?
So I'll say I have an interview at an agency, filmmaking agency in Oklahoma City. I won't disclose who that is, just because it's an interview, so nothing's for sure yet.
And he got the job.
We can only
this
hope.
is coming out 3 months later, so we could totally be like,
sure.
And now he's CEO.
Yeah. Now I'm running the company, and we're headed in a really good direction. So we're excited.
Is this really 3 months later? It'll come out 3 months?
It'll probably be about 3 months later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're talking to the future.
Wow.
That's really
the past.
exciting.
I don't know how it works.
What an honor.
That's technology right there.
That's right. This is Welcome to the Okie Show, the podcast that travels through time.
Gosh.
Both ways.
Both ways.
Forward and backwards. We're basically the TARDIS of podcasts.
Wow.
Nerds listening will know what the crap I was saying.
Yeah. That went over my head, but I'll look it up later. I have 3 months to look it up.
There's a 13th
Yeah,
Doctor,
you
guys!
have tons of time to realize.
Tons of time.
And I'm just so disappointed because she's a blonde. I don't even know why that's a problem. Like, why is that even a big deal? That who cares?
So,
the Doctor's not a girl. Anyway, we rabbit trail on this show. I don't know if I told you that.
Yes, yeah.
And so you direct all of the films that you guys produce and put together?
Yes, so far. That was really a lot of, I guess, what our friendship grew around is that we both, at work where we worked at the church, did a couple different hats in the filmmaking process, directing, shooting, and editing. And me and him really both recognized that I prefer to write and direct, and he prefers to be DP, and,
Yep.
and he loves to color too. He's very humble. He acts like he's not good at it, but he's actually a great colorist.
You're a great writer, Brian.
Well, thank you.
Oh.
But
Oh,
but
guys.
but yeah, that was honestly a cool moment for us
Yeah.
as friends and as collaborators when we realized
No
that we
doubt.
both preferred to focus on different aspects of the filmmaking process.
Yeah. Right.
Because it opened up to us taking on, I think, bigger things that we
Yeah.
could tackle together that we wouldn't be able to do on our own.
And that's been really exciting just to see, like us be able to recognize like Brian's really good in these areas and I'm really good in these areas, and like us not stepping on each other's toes, but saying like, dude, I trust you. Let's make this happen. And whenever I was writing Tempo, it was just to shoot something, you know. And I was listening to a cinematography podcast back then, and one of the things that he said was he was talking about how the tide rises all boats. And I was like, well, that makes sense. So I contacted Brian to be like, well, you want to direct, so here, just like I gave him the script and said, you direct it, I'll shoot it, and you know, you just take it in whatever direction you know you see fit. And that's just kind of how we operated since then.
And it was super exciting to have him come trust me with his own script. So
Yeah.
from there it just took off.
Man, especially I feel like locally that's rare to have a writer that's just like, here you go. And,
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Oh man, I wouldn't call myself a writer. I was just anxious to shoot something and then give it away.
He's more of a writer than he lets on, but
No.
Yeah.
what we have
Negative.
kind of settled into with our process is we've started kind of breaking story together
Yeah.
more often, and then
That's been
in
really
more
cool.
recent projects, because we have a couple short films we've written that we just kind of have on the shelf that we hope to make soon in the coming months or years. We break story together, and then more recently I've gone off and written the actual screenplay.
Yeah.
But then Nick's really good at some world building stuff and like naming. Like, we came up with a story the other day, and then I think we were somewhere, and then I fell asleep or something because we had a big dinner, and I was tired. And I woke up and
On the
I woke
typewriter.
up and he had like named all the characters and the city and the world of it, and I was like, it's things I would have never come up with, and it was super helpful.
That's about as extensive as my writing goes.
Well, and
Is-
this whole process, it sounds like the creative process at a church, like at Life Church, in that, you know, incubative kind of situation. That's how they do it at Skit Guys and stuff. And like, I love that. I love that is accessible. You know, like that.
Yeah.
Those processes are able to be learned in a real world scenario.
for sure.
Or you have like a team of guys who are just like, it's like good friends like you guys, and just brainstorming ideas to try
Yeah.
to make good films.
Yeah.
And I think that's like really awesome.
Having a writer's room and stuff like that. That's really, really cool. I mean, you basically have a writer's room between the two of you, but like you came from Life Church where you also have
We
a
try
writer's
to,
room
yeah.
and all that.
Well, one thing that was cool that we learned at Life Church was just there was within the process of developing a script, there's just an initial brainstorm, then the writer goes away and works on some stuff, and then there's a thrashing, which sounds super violent, but it's
They literally
a
pull out
time
Cat
where
of
like
Nine Tails and
yeah,
that joke was bad.
Yep. but I mean in a more diplomatic way, yeah, a room full of people that basically say like this works, this doesn't,
Yeah.
and then it goes through a refining process that way. So I think that taught me, and you can say,
Oh, for sure.
probably
Yeah.
Nick too,
Same here.
the value of like letting things be seen in a safe spot,
Yep.
letting them be refined, and not being afraid to dig out and I can't say the word, to excavate the best story that's there
Yeah.
underneath the surface.
Oh, for sure.
God, that's great. Well, and also being willing to take criticism in the spirit of making it better.
Oh yeah.
yeah, if you're
That's
all on the same
huge.
team, you don't have to be so defensive.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Well, and I feel like that's a really important thing for local people that are wanting to write and do all that. Like, you've got to be used to criticism, and so many times we have local filmmakers that are kind of in their own little bubble. Like they're just kind of holed up by themselves, and they have to do it by themselves. Like, what do you have to say to that person that is kind of alone in all that?
Well, I think I tend to talk more than Nick. I'm laughing.
I'll talk
He's
after
laughing
you.
at me.
No.
What I would say to that is that I have been. I left the premiere of Tempo at Dead Center feeling just so incredibly thankful, thinking about the fact that I just watched a film that I know I had an integral part in, but that there were so many different aspects that I didn't touch because there was other people I trusted to collaborate on it, and I left so thankful, feeling like I don't know how we pulled that off. I don't know how that worked. I know what I did. I know what Nick did, but it's amazing to see the whole come together and what can be accomplished when you trust other people to buy into that
Yep.
vision and do their role.
Yep.
So, although it can be scary, on the flip side, it was only encouraging and exciting and super energizing to do more stuff, seeing what can be
Yeah.
accomplished with more people.
As far as like the bubble thing, I think the biggest thing I could think of is if your aspiration is to grow, you have to be vulnerable. So I mean, and it's obviously easier to be vulnerable with people that you trust. So like I trusted Brian, and we were on the same like level, and we knew we wanted to get better, so we just trusted each other. And yeah, to anybody kind of within their bubble, I guess I would tell them, like, man, if you really want to get better and if you really want to grow, you have to step out on a limb at some point. And it's easier. It is easier to do that with people that you know and that you trust, that also want to grow. But if those people for whatever reason aren't around you, that can't stop you either. You got to pop that bubble, and kind of go adventure.
Find your safe people and just like trust them to collaborate with you, and you can start small. It could be one other person, 2 other people, but typically that you can create that environment that's going to make a safe spot.
Absolutely.
Even if it's just 2 of you at first.
Yep, that's awesome. So I want to bring it back to the stepping out from faith-based filmmaking to the secular world. First of all, how do you navigate, because in the faith-based world, and I say faith-based because it's not just Christian films. Like there's, Muslim films and other films from different religious backgrounds and stuff.
Sure.
That's why we're sticking to faith-based. But, with that, you have some limitations that you have to deal with, because when you have Christian audiences, you can't exactly drop the F-bomb.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Unless you want everybody to evacuate the church immediately.
Typically
If
not,
that's
yeah.
how you want to leave and go to the secular world, then I guess you have that
That's
option.
a perfect leaping point.
Yeah.
I'm getting the F out of here.
Yep.
So
That's one way to do it.
Yeah. So you have these limitations of your audience within the film, the faith-based. I can't talk. The faith-based world, the face-based world, and then you go into a world where there's no faces whatsoever.
No faces.
How do you deal with that?
Oh man.
No,
Where do I look?
How do you go about doing that? I guess.
Go
And
ahead ask me one
staying
more time.
true to yourself, I guess.
Would you mind actually rephrasing the question for me a little bit?
How do you go about, like, you have in the Christian filmmaking world, within your audience, you have all these limitations of like language and certain convictions and that kind of thing.
Yep.
And then
Guidelines.
you move into the secular world where you can have someone brutally murdered and that kind of thing. Like, how do you go about navigating that without kind of, I guess, betraying yourself? I guess that's what I'm getting to.
Do you mean like while you're still there, or making the leap of
Making the leap.
Okay.
Yeah. It's the world's most complicated, convoluted way of asking a question. Sorry.
No, dude. No, that makes sense.
Who do you want to go first?
I'll go for it. It
have
seems like
something?
you're thinking.
Go for it.
Yeah, I'll just start talking. We'll see what happens.
Okay.
Man, I think it's I think no matter what the subject is, and no matter where you're at and where you want to go, it's all about just trial and error, you know. And I think I don't think so. To answer your question, like staying true to yourself and stuff like that. If you write something or direct something or you shoot something and maybe by the end of it or in the middle of it you just don't feel great about it, you're now like you're creating wisdom for yourself, where you're like, okay, so this is these are my boundaries and my guidelines for film going forward or something like that. And you may be able to say like, well, morally, I don't really want to do this anymore after doing it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because you say faith-based, like we're Christians, so like that's us. So if something feels morally wrong with us, like as a Christian that felt weird, God will forgive us, and we just got to take that moving forward and you figure out like what our boundaries are. But then you kind of have to discern like, okay, this tested me like technically or professionally, so there's nothing wrong with that, and you just persevere through that. But if it's morally, then moving forward. But yeah, I think going back to what I said initially I think it's just like a trial and error thing, and you shouldn't be afraid of kind of venturing out. That way you can learn for yourself, you know? So.
No, I think that's great. I guess it's been a question on my mind for sure. As I came to realize, okay, we have a short film that's going to premiere at a festival in a city that we call home. Like, a lot of eyes are going to be on, a lot more eyes than yesterday. You know, the day before the festival, we'll be on the film, and am I okay with that?
Yeah.
And I think what I go back to often, as I've been wrestling with that question, probably for the last year, because we made it in 2016 and it played in 17, so there's a lot of time to process.
Yeah.
I think I try to go back to why I originally loved film, and it's as an audience member, it's as a fan. So I think most people probably get into it for that reason. And as an audience member, like, I'm crazy about film. I love going to movies. I want to engage with the story. Like, I want to be invited into a story that someone's going to take care of me with, hold my hand, take me on a good journey, and at the end of it, I feel satisfied with that. And I think I'm after the same thing as a director too. Is just no matter what I make or what I put out there, I want that to be the main goal that I'm always coming back to. And I don't know if that's cliche. I don't know if that's the typical answer, but to stay true to my roots and stay true to myself, whether it's in the church or outside of the church, I want to be crafting a story that people are excited to be invited into and entertained, and at the end they feel satisfied. And that usually keeps me within the boundaries that I need to not be gratuitous with what I'm putting in it. If there's language or if there's certain content, it's there because I think it serves the purpose of creating that story.
Right.
And that has kept me really anchored to I think where I need to be and true to myself.
Yeah.
Just reminding myself, if I'm the one in the seat watching this, if I'm not the filmmaker but the audience member, is it serving the reason I came to that theater still?
Right.
And that's been okay for me so far. I think there's probably a learning curve too, like Nick said, where you maybe go too far or you wish you would have gone farther. And I think that's because you just course correct and you learn.
Oh yeah.
I think it's interesting because, like, you know, for Neil and I, like, we're crew members. You know, we're not necessarily the writer, directors, and that kind of thing of the projects that we work on. So, like, you know, your personal convictions aren't exactly you know, like, the project that you're working on isn't totally a reflection of you.
Sure.
You know? Sure. Because, like, we've worked on movies that have had sex scenes and stuff like that. And, like, that's not a reflection of who we are.
Sure.
But as the writer, directors and stuff, it is. So
I think you take on that risk that in the same way that if the film's terrible, your name's at the front.
It just
you know?
really sucks.
It's like high risk.
It's a reflection of
high
you.
risk, high reward, yeah.
If the movie's bad, you're really bad at being a person.
You're the first name that everyone's mad at. If it's
Yeah.
bad.
That's why I'm afraid to step into those shoes, I think. And because I'm not good at it. I'm good at holding a pole.
Massive shoulders.
Massive shoulders. Yeah.
You got. I love it.
So you guys did well. I know that you DP'd the Unseen, correct?
Yes. Yep.
And did you work on that as well?
That was actually Nick. Nick did all that. He directed that too.
That was one of the projects where it was just me. I had a guy named Cody Jeffcoat who helped shoot it and stuff like that, and he also helped. I would say even helped DP it a little bit of. You know, he kind of came in with me and we kind of scouted out locations and stuff like that. But
and
it was
did
just
you
me.
Did you write the story of the through?
No. We had his name was Salvatore Del Salvatore. It still is, but he has since left us. But
he's still alive.
Yeah, he is still alive.
Yes. And he's dead.
He works somewhere else.
Done. He might be dead by the time this releases.
I hope not.
I hope
we
not.
We are talking
either.
to the future.
Yeah.
Like, we all could be dead. We don't know.
I don't hold his fate.
But I hope he's
I
alive.
digress. Yeah, no, I did not write it. No. Just directed it and shot it and
he colored it. You did a great job coloring
it. Yes.
Yeah, it did. I really liked like especially the demon scenes. Like, it had like very like green hues.
Yeah,
so it was amazing. I really
thanks, man. I've always been a huge Fincher fan.
Nice.
Just huge. And
if Tempo didn't give that away.
Yeah, right. So that actually gave me a reason to go a little bit darker. Since it was about angels and demons.
Right.
So I was like, man, I'm going to take advantage of that. And by the way, it was awesome working with Alan Davidson and Stephen Goodman.
Heck
with
yeah.
they were so
Great,
good.
yeah.
Stars of Electric Nostalgia.
Man.
Great actors.
Yeah,
Sidebar.
they were a blast. I hardly gave them really anything. I was like, you guys obviously know what you're doing,
Yeah.
so I'm just gonna stand behind the
they're so
camera.
great.
What was your sidebar?
I was just going to ask, so with In the Spirit of Unseen, which is a movie about spiritual warfare, to give the listeners an idea of what we're talking about. Have you read This Present Darkness by Frank Peretti?
I have not.
Oh!
I'm sorry.
Oh! It's so good. It's so good. Read that book, dang it.
I'm gonna read it.
And then read Piercing the Darkness. They're two massive books. You'll spend years reading them.
Homework.
Okay.
Yep.
So, what is the future for you guys? Do you guys plan on making more short films?
Brian?
Running?
You want me to answer that?
Oh yes.
We definitely plan on making more short films, and I will say we have a feature in mind too.
Yes.
I guess we technically have 2 stories we talked about. We have one story which is I'm scared to jinx it, but since it's 3 months later, should be okay. That is at about that's heading towards 80 pages, which I'm trying to get to just first draft done, and then another one I'd like to start soon. But we have some short films that are written that we've actually even reached out about some casting stuff for.
Nice.
That we're still just trying to find the right team to really make that
Right.
happen.
Yeah.
So.
Well, this actually was an elaborate ploy for you to choose us.
Yeah, right.
to
Oh, perfect.
Star in
Yes.
your
Great.
film.
You thought it was your ploy. We actually this is an audition. We're
Oh,
here.
Yeah.
Man, they turned it right on
We're
its
here-
head.
I'm glad
guys
you
are
said
good.
that.
Surprise.
I have my headshots and resume right here.
Here.
But yeah, oh my gosh, we had so much fun. The night after we finished like cleaning up after Tempo, like putting the gear away, everything was basically just time to get in your cars and go home. We looked at each other and we were just like, that was so much fun.
Oh yeah.
And so we want to do it again. And we have a couple. We're trying to figure out which one of those will be the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess Dead Center 2018 is, you could say, is definitely on our radar. Trying to
Yeah.
have one ready for that. So if not
Definitely.
sooner.
Definitely.
I miss the deadline for that every year. It's dumb.
Oh, no.
I thought you had one in this past year.
I was in
You were
one
in
that was
the
in
for-
it.
yeah.
That was where I got
Illustrators
to be a dead
Anonymous?
guy. Not Illustrator. He was in
That was
Illustrators
me.
Anonymous.
Okay.
I was
Okay.
in that one.
That's right.
He did the coloring books.
And
Yeah,
I
I
was
did
also
do the
murdered.
coloring books. Hey, they saw it.
That's right. The coloring book man.
Yes.
I loved it.
I'm
So,
the coloring book man.
so you guys are planning on doing features and all that kind of stuff. Like, are you
Oh,
planning
yeah.
on doing any like faith-based stuff like in the future, like outside of Life Church?
Right now, no. Like it's not in the foreseeable future. Not to say we necessarily won't do it, but in the foreseeable future, we have some other stuff we want to try.
For me, I would say probably the same. That I would never say never, but I guess as of now, like I've tried to just identify what stories kind of feel like they need to be told by me, like which ones are kind of ready to come out, and to capitalize on that and try to write those and take the momentum of that.
Absolutely.
I'm sure because of who I am and the things I care about, certain themes might emerge within those stories, but I don't think that they would be exclusively a faith-based story because I'm just going to kind of let them write them as I feel like they should be.
Right.
Just to
Christian movies. Because, like, I feel like anytime an agenda movie comes about, and that's not just faith-based movies, because there are tons of movies that have an agenda behind them that are not Christian, but I don't feel like they ever quite land with an audience. And I feel like that's why there's such a stigma on Christian movies.
I think so.
They suck.
I love the Martin Luther quote. I think it's the duty of the Christian shoemaker is not to put little crosses on every shoe, but to make really good shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you heard that quote?
I have not, but that's
one of my
spot
favorite
on.
quotes.
I love that quote. I feel like it. I mean, I think it very, very succinctly says like pursue excellence in your craft and let that speak loudly. And so yeah, I think you're right. Movies that have not just faith-based movies, but any movie like a movie that I can't think of I'm trying to think of a company. A movie that Coca-Cola puts on to promote its soda is not going to land the same as a movie that Marvel puts on to just tell a good story.
Yeah.
Even though they're both trying to make money, it's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it's funny because like the same way that I feel about like Christian movies that are like, at the very end they're like, and you should accept Christ or else you're going to hell. I feel like that's the same feeling that I get whenever I'm watching like some social justice movie that I may even agree with, but I hate being preached at.
Sure. Yeah, man.
I don't really think anybody likes being preached at.
I've been doing a masterclass by David Mamet recently. I just started it, and it's been fascinating. And he talks to that too. And if you make it, 2 or 3 lessons in, or 20 minutes into his lesson, he talks exactly about that.
Yeah.
He basically says, like, I think as the viewer, you can feel tricked if
Right.
you're like, someone comes at you with like, here was my secret purpose to take you on this story. He basically says, like, just give people a break from the burden of their subconscious for a little bit. He's like, that's enough. Like, you don't need
So
to.
good.
You don't need to come at them and like stop the show. Let me tell you who you should be voting for,
Right.
And what you should support.
Yes.
So that's all David Mamet. That's not me.
Yeah.
But it's been great to hear him say that. So
Well, and like we're going to be talking to the Skit guys about this pretty soon, but they have a feature film coming up where the writer director he and I have had many conversations about how it's so important to not make the movie a Christian movie in the sense that it has an agenda behind it or like a moral or anything like that, but just that God is gravity within the world of the story. That God is gravity, like, and I feel like we're seeing more of those types of movies. Like, I have all these examples that I don't actually have in my head right now. But just
Ridge.
Hacksaw Ridge is a great example.
Hacksaw
Holy
Ridge.
balls, that's a good movie.
Shawshank Redemption. That's an old one, but
Yeah.
does that count, or is that what you're thinking?
I like to call them. I had it written down here.
Hidden Figures?
Hidden Figures.
Also a
Yeah,
good
yeah,
one.
that could
Yes.
be like an undercover faith-based film. That's what I like to call it. They're undercover.
Oh, Scorsese's
Oh, dude.
one, Silence.
Silence. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
I love Adam Driver anyways, and that was a fantastic movie.
Yep.
It was neat to see Kylo Ren be a priest
Yeah.
or a monk.
And
I
Spider-Man.
think that might be the prequel to Kylo
Or
Ren.
former
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Former Spider-Man.
Former Spider-Man.
Yeah, the
second
artist formerly
Spider-Man.
known as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Spider-Man's a hardcore Christian.
Yeah. Who knew?
Who knew?
Yeah.
And he can
Thanks,
also
Marvel.
rock a samurai ponytail.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm trying to like help me name a couple of these. We're going to call them undercover faith-based movies. We had Hacksaw Ridge. We had Silence. I like to call the Exorcism of Emily Rose a fantastic undercover faith-based movie because it literally puts God on trial. Have you seen that movie?
I have not. I see. I can't.
I
Me
haven't seen
personally,
it.
I can't do demonic films.
Yeah.
I just can't watch them.
Yeah.
I can watch like Scream or something.
Right.
But like since I believe in demons and stuff, like that can
Yes.
actually happen. It freaks me out, so I don't watch them.
That's actually why I like that movie even more because I agree. Like I totally believe in demonic, presence and that kind
Yeah.
of thing. And so like it was interesting because that movie kind of like pulls the curtain back on it a little bit, and it's still scary as crap.
Yeah, dude.
Would you consider Forrest Gump an undercover
Maybe.
faith-based movie? I would.
Maybe.
I totally would.
God, that's just such.
I'm trying really hard. I feel like I've got some. I just can't.
Yeah, I can't think of any.
any.
A
outside
Walk
of
to
those.
Remember. Jars of Clay rocked that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
There's
Saved?
actually-
Saved?
Saved.
Well, it's an interesting satire. I mean, like I think it has some very interesting commentary that I feel like.
I've
lends
honestly
itself-
never seen it. I just watched the trailer and it was just like, hey.
Well, it takes a much different approach. I mean, it's not a soft story. Like it takes a very satirical approach. But
Right.
I think it actually has some things in there. Yeah, you'd be surprised of.
I'll have to watch that then. There's a show on HBO that is my favorite show right now. It's
Game
called
of Thrones?
Crashing.
Okay.
And it's Pete Holmes. And Pete
I
Holmes
wanna
is
see that.
actually he's a secular comedian, as in like he still drops the F-bomb and that kind of thing, but he's also a Christian. And he's not your typical Christian, so he's not like a Bible beating kind of guy. Not that that's a typical Christian. It shouldn't be. But but Crashing is such a I would call it a Christian show. It's a Judd
Really?
Apatow show. And it's about this Christian guy trying to do stand-up comedy in this rough world. And it's the first time that I've seen a Christian being portrayed in the real world, in that there are people that have sex in this world, and there are people that do drugs in this world.
And you're
there are
pretty
people
happy
that
with how they
cuss.
depict it. It's
And
like feels accurate.
I do. I really do. Like, there's some points where it's like, all right. But given the fact that it's Judd Apatow, what he's given us, I'm okay with.
Yeah.
Like, I'm digging it.
I feel like I've seen. It seems like the entertainment world is, I guess like the spiritual aspect of people's lives is whereas it once was once
kind of
very
overlapping.
more
Yeah.
than I feel like it has in previous decades. I feel like there was
Yeah.
a long stretch where it was very, very like segregated, and those things weren't supposed to touch. And I just feel like people nowadays are maybe a little more interested in talking about how they're interwoven.
Yeah,
And
the
I think
conversation's opening up.
I think it's coming more into,
Yeah.
that's why the entertainment industry is following suit, I think.
Yeah.
The
I think they're also realizing that there's a market for Christian audiences.
Yeah.
You're
Because
right.
what
That-
other audience is
That's
going to
also
bring
true.
busloads of people to come to the movie theater?
You're right.
Yep.
That's totally true.
That is true. Have you guys seen? So this isn't a movie; it's a short film. But Film Supply did it, and it's called The Cage.
Okay.
It's a neighborhood film company, I think, did it.
I think that's what's called.
Yeah, and it's not a movie; it's a short film, but you can find it on Vimeo. And I've watched it numerous times because I've told people, I was like, it drops F-bombs, it cusses, and there's some there's some stuff in there that is a little risky and stuff, but I think it actually depicts the gospel better than almost anything else that I've seen.
Yeah.
I cry by the end of it because it's
Yeah.
just so real,
That's
How
actually
did-
that was
yeah.
one of the. Remember, I called you right after you
Yeah.
sent it to me and I watched it. And I called you and I was like, "This is the flavor of the feature I want to write."
Yep.
Yeah.
That was
Yep.
like
I remember that.
it was very inspiring to see that.
Yeah.
And that kind of takes me back to the initial question of like staying true to yourself while telling these stories, because like for me, like I'm a person of faith, and yet I love seeing movies with the F-bomb and everything because that's the real world that I live
Sure.
in. And it helps me trust the story. And I really love seeing, like with Crashing, a show that depicts the real world with warts and all, because that's one thing I feel like a lot of Christian movies are afraid of doing,
Yeah.
is showing the world warts and all, and then being able to portray the gospel in that.
Yeah.
And as a person of faith, when you're a filmmaker and you want to tell that story, suddenly you do have to, have a movie that has the F-bomb and all that kind of stuff. Suddenly you do have to like be able to navigate. How do I shoot I don't think you shouldn't rely on shooting a sex scene unless it's like really pivotal to the story. But
Sure.
like suddenly you have to do that kind of stuff because
Yeah.
it's the real world. Like how do you do that? And that's just like
Was
an open
it-
question to
and-
the
and-
universe.
and-
How do you do that?
And when you do it, is it like terrifying? Like, do
Mm-hmm.
you think like that's something that scares you guys going into like maybe pushing the boundaries a little more than what you're normally used to doing?
I would say I've definitely had some fear about that. I mean, I haven't done it yet.
Yeah. Neither one of us have filmed anything with sex scenes yet. I say yet.
Why?
Yeah.
Why isn't that all over
yeah.
Life Church?
Neither of us have been faced with the challenge, the challenge of how to do that in the right way yet.
Sure.
But I know that, like we said, like different stories call for different things, and
Right.
inevitably it might come to that point. And when I get there, I don't know. I'll probably have to.
And I
Decide in the
mean,
moment.
and not just
Yeah.
necessarily sex scenes, but it
Well,
can
yeah.
be a lot of different things from
For
like
sure.
mental illness
Yep.
to post-traumatic stress
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
whatever someone might be dealing with. Not
Mm-hmm.
just necessarily sex, but just like really, really heavy-hitting subjects that a lot of people aren't usually like necessarily used to seeing all the time.
Sure.
Yeah.
You,
I feel like people are very forgiving if you do it for a reason.
Yeah.
Or not forgiving, but forgiving is the wrong word. I think people are accepting if you do it for the right reason.
That's
Right.
good.
So I feel like if
That's
once
true.
you go back to like, what does the story call for,
Yeah.
and if you do what seems right for that story, I think the audience typically in their gut is okay with that.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to be
always-
sugar-coated.
Yeah, and man, and it's always weird because like like I think about movies like 12 Years a Slave or like what's the movie with like movies like that deal with segregation and everything, and like you're having to tell African American actors like, could you hood it up a little bit? you know what I mean? Like having to do that, like having to ask people to like.
That's probably a whole.
God,
that's a whole
it's so
different area of
weird.
taboo within film. Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically playing into stereotypes or not. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a whole
sure.
different topic in itself.
Oh
Yeah.
God! I mean, like, I don't even know how you would. See, that's another reason why I'd be terrified to direct anything.
That's really hard
Jumping
to.
into that arena.
I mean,
Yeah.
I do think you can probably hide behind, not hide behind, but you can probably stick to, once again, like what's the character gonna be like, and hopefully that's a dialogue you have with every actor. Is, like,
Yeah.
be able to say like, how do you think they would speak?
Mm-hmm.
But I do think of like that scene in Crash. Remember? Have you seen?
Oh God! Yeah.
When he basically they go to the director and they're like, you need to go.
Yeah.
it's a very racist comment that I don't support at all. But they basically asked the director to go to one of the actors of color and have him change how he's speaking because they feel like it's too eloquent.
Yeah.
And it's terribly racist.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing that when I was probably like in high school, and it bothered me. So
Yeah.
as a filmmaker, I haven't had to do that, and I don't plan to ever have to do that. But
Yeah. Dude, Crash is one of those movies where I'll watch it and just be like, how the hell did they do this and not everyone be pissed off every time they left the set?
Well, I think because it's so fair. It's
Yeah.
like South Park. It's like you make fun of everyone.
Yeah.
So then everyone's like, okay, touche. We're all.
Yeah.
Like no one.
We're
no
all
one,
gonna laugh at ourselves.
no one's picked on
Yeah.
everyone's like, that
Yeah.
really hurts. You basically made a movie about how everyone's really racist, and
Yeah.
now we can all just sit and think about how true that is.
You know that they probably had a meeting where they had everybody in the cast and crew together, and like they like the producer comes up and is like, "All right, we're making a very racist movie. Nobody can get offended at anything.
Deal with it.
It'll win.
Deal with it."
It'll win Best Picture,
Yeah. Oh my god.
which it did.
Yeah, it totally did. Oh, that's such a beautiful movie. It's such a painful movie to watch. But like, yeah, I think of obstacles like that, especially as a person of faith, like directing anything in a world depicted that is anything close to the real world. You know, God,
Yeah.
that's got to be rough.
Yeah, sure.
And see, for me, I could just take a shot before I have to do something like that.
Well, yeah, maybe we sound braver than we actually are because we haven't had to face
Yeah,
some of those
yeah,
really
that's-
difficult
that's-
situations you're
that's
talking
true.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Maybe you're doing us a favor. You're making us think about it now.
I want
Yeah.
you to think about the next time that you have to shoot a sex scene.
More homework.
Well, that's one of the benefits of being a writer too. Is like what I'm writing now is things I'm okay making and saying.
Yeah.
So, at least but that might not always be the case.
Yeah.
I might
Well,
not
and that's-
always get to choose the script.
Yeah, well, and that's very true because sometimes, for aspiring directors, you're not always going to be directing the things that you yourself have written and have like influence on. Sometimes you're just a hired gun. Like if we're talking, the real world scenario, sometimes you're just a hired gun.
Yep.
And when you are a hired gun, in the same way that we below the line crew members, if there's a sex scene, you have to. For me, I have to throw my boom operator in that room and listen to sex sounds in my headphones while everyone's gathered around me, knowing exactly what I'm listening to.
But I guess that same scenario has to exist in every industry too.
Yeah.
Where you're. I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah, I don't think you're ever going to avoid it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no matter whether you're in filmmaking or in accounting, I feel like there's. I don't know accounting well enough.
Yeah.
My metaphor is going to fall apart if I keep going. But there's that situation has to exist outside of filmmaking too.
Yeah. Maybe it just comes down to maturity. Like maybe it's as simple as that. Like
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely think that it could come down to maturity. Again, like being a person of faith, I would also say that there will be a time that you will probably have to say no to something and stand firm, and you're going to get persecuted for it, and that's just how it's going to be.
Yeah.
I don't think, like, I wouldn't want to say yes to everything and just chalk it up to like, well, I'm okay with this because it's just me, and like, someone else wrote it or whatever. Like, I wouldn't want to walk into a situation and be like, well, I'm just gonna, suck it up and go through it. Like, there will most definitely be times where it's like, yeah, I don't think it'd be right for me to, associate myself with this. And I was actually because Life Church has a West Palm Beach campus or Wellington campus, but around West Palm Beach, and there's a guy up there that actually worked for Spike TV.
Oh.
And he said that he would be reading his Bible app while he was on set if something was going on that people would actually make fun of him. And he didn't quit,
right.
but he would, like, he was also a light, on a hill or, in the darkness because of that and stuff. So I think there will inevitably times where it's like I might have to walk away from something.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you got to kind of measure, like, do I be a light or do I walk away?
Yeah.
So
I wish we lived in a society that was more accepting of the Christian conviction. It feels like we have a lot of sympathy for like every other freaking
Sure.
religion.
Yeah.
And when it comes to like Christians, it's like, you're a bigot or something like
Yeah.
that. It's not fair.
I wonder if that I guess I think that's probably the reality of anytime there's a predominant culture of anything.
Yeah.
That typically is probably going to get the most.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if we were in another country where there was another religion that was the dominant religion, I think that probably would get more flack. I think that's kind of what you get when you're the majority.
Right. Yeah.
I actually kind of don't like. I used to kind of have a problem with that though. Of like, everybody's accepting about everything else, but when it comes, I feel like when it comes to Christianity, maybe it's just because I'm on this line.
Yeah.
But when it comes to Christianity, that people are a little bit more not accepting of it. And I know like people raise arms about it and stuff, but I don't know. I can't remember if it's because I read something and watched something or if it was just a realization, but I think if we just kind of I think it's okay to accept that and just move on, because then I feel like that speaks volumes. It is like I heard of this thing called like Maninism or something. It's feminism.
Maninism?
It's feminism.
Oh, Meninism. It's Meninism. Yeah.
That's what it is.
The Meninists.
Like feminists for men, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, dude, suck it up, man.
We need equal rights, okay?
I'm just saying, like, when
hilarious.
it comes to
the women need to stop demanding of men to put the lid down. It's unfair.
I know, all this back-breaking hard labor.
I know.
You know what?
I know.
I hate the sound. It's just such a loud like slap. Like I feel like if there was a cushion that made it softer.
Yeah.
I think that might be
Yeah.
the real problem.
That's really, it's really oppressive in the middle of the night whenever I have to put the lid down after I'm done, doing my business.
I actually just
Ka-clang!
just put a urinal in there, man. Just like
I agree.
both.
Yeah.
Let's get both.
Checkmate, ladies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got
How did we
ours,
get
you've
on
got
this?
yours.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Anywho. So what words of advice would you give to any aspiring filmmaker that may or may not be a person of faith that's trying to be successful, just period? Like what kind of
good.
advice can you give?
Brian?
Oh, I know you have so much good advice. Nick's been reading this really good book called, what is it, Tools of Titans?
Yeah. By Tim Ferriss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go first.
Okay. We're back to me.
I can do
Okay,
it.
ping pong.
I know the one that I'll go because it's me and Nick say to each other all the time. It's go make stuff and it's advice I've heard from other podcasts of people in the entertainment industry. It's advice I've heard from people in the city here. But like, there's rarely a substitute of learning. That you're really gonna learn more than just going to do it.
Yeah.
And I've learned that in my own life
it's
too.
true.
Just making stuff, I've learned so much
Yep.
more than theorizing about it.
It's
so
really good.
That's true, because man, you can talk about doing stuff all day long, but until you,
Yeah.
you know,
If you don't have a demo reel, then your talk's cheap, man.
yeah.
I mean, it depends what you want to do too. But you said specifically filmmakers.
I mean, we could expand it to any artist, I guess.
I guess I would just say just start studying what makes a good story, because I think the technical ability to make film probably comes quicker than, I don't know if that's fair. I think it might come quicker learning the technical side than it does to learn how to tell a good story. It might take more work to go back and try to like.
Yeah.
Do you think that's true? I don't want to downplay the
Well,
technical.
no, I think that is true because, I think that is true because, like, in a way, you do have to learn the technical side, like just how to shoot the thing, before you can actually have the tools to make a good story. I don't know. Maybe you can learn both at the same time.
I feel like in like what makes a good story, you're dealing in this abstract realm.
Yeah.
And then on the technical side, you're at least a little bit more in a tangible realm. So
Right.
like if you're learning, like, Brian, I know you do, one thing you do is audio. Like you at least could be there. You probably can at least be there experimenting right with your ears, and you can be like, this sounds better, this doesn't sound as good, and you're developing your craft right there in front of you. But I feel like the story, you can be swimming in your head, like not sure, like
yeah.
I'm good. Story, because
Yeah.
typically the technical stuff will find its way to a good story.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna piggyback off of that just a little bit. So I mean, there was stuff. So I went to school a little bit for film, but I'm mostly self-taught. And when I started at Life Church, there were things that I didn't know that I picked up from other people technically. So I think you, from a technical standpoint, you can always pick stuff up by just jumping in. And you probably need to take some time, like, on your own to learn it and stuff, sure. But as a DP, you know, or an aspiring DP, I know there are a lot of people out there, like, you know, gear nerds of just, you know, I'm one, like, I love researching about cameras and specs and lenses and, like, the personality of lenses and stuff like that, and just all this type of stuff, because they're tools, and plus it's just kind of neat to figure out what's new, you know, and stuff. But I think that can become a trap so quick.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: I've seen really great stuff that maybe it was technically proficient, but like the story sucked. So in 10 minutes, I was gone. Like, I was not listening, I was not watching, and stuff like that. And I know what this sounds like, because I was the guy who, like, oh man, another person saying, like, story is key. I hate hearing that. You know, I was that guy, but it's so true, because if you learn how to craft it, you will want to craft it well, and you will learn how to use the tools at your disposal, like how to use a camera well and stuff, to actually tell it. So, jumping back, Brian and I, one of the things we do now, which is incredibly fun, is we'll, like, sit down and have coffee or something, and we'll just, like, craft a story. And, like, one of us might be like, well, what do you think about this? And it's like, well, maybe it doesn't feel right. Okay, like, what? Well, like, what's one of the things you always ask is, like, what does
the main character want? And then intention and obstacle, which is like an Aaron Sorkin thing he talks about in this video I've watched of him. But just says, like, what's the intention of your character and what's the obstacle in his way?
Yeah.
And so, like, Nick might have an idea, or I might have an idea, and one of us might be like, that's great, but what do they want? And then when we figure out what the character wants, like, well, nothing stands in their way. It's like, he wants a burrito, and he's in front of the taco shop. So well, I guess maybe that would be an obstacle, because they only serve tacos. But.
Yeah, man, that's
very deceiving.
I think we just came up with our third short.
Yeah, that's the next short.
But like we since we do that, we're crafting storytelling muscles, you know, and I think that's super important, because I can always go online and figure out how to use a camera maybe that I haven't used before, but storytelling is so much more complicated than that. Yeah, you know. So
I would say, if you want to be a filmmaker, I would say before you go look at rental prices for a camera, or start saving. Just start as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Start saving
some money.
But before you put any money and energy into getting the actors and the crew, although that's important, see if you can sit around a dinner table with your friends and tell them the story and have them not get bored. And when you get that down, where you're like, they're not like just being polite and they want you to be done, then I think you're probably ready to start moving on to the other stuff.
Advice.
Or in that spirit, you could just play D&D.
That's probably
storytelling.
That's probably great.
Storytelling, and it's super nerdy.
I didn't realize D&D was what they were talking about at the beginning of ET till. Did you know that?
No.
I think they're.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch ET now.
They're talking about D&D, because I read the script and I was looking at it, and they're talking about Dungeons and Dragons. And then I think Stranger Things that's probably a direct.
Yeah.
So then obviously I think it's a direct, like, you know, tribute to that. But you don't realize it because
that's really funny.
Well, the audio's not as good in those older movies, and it's like all the, like, little lines that those kids say in ET. They kind of, like, I don't know about you, when I was little, so, like, they're almost, like, memorized, but I don't know what they mean. It's like knowing lyrics of a song when you're a kid. Yeah. And you don't realize what they're saying.
Because it just went over your head.
Yeah, so then when I reread it as an adult, I was like, oh, Dungeons and Dragons. Sorry. Didn't mean to derail.
I'm a Dungeons and Dragons enthusiast. Trying to get Neil in on it, too.
Nice.
I'm not good at it. I really suck at it.
I think it's great. I love it. A lot of people play the game, and it's very interesting.
On my 30th birthday, we went to McNelly's, and they kept feeding me shots, and then I demanded that we play an impromptu game of D&D in the middle of the bar.
Do you not need a board game?
No. Like, our dungeon master was there, and I think he had his die and everything, so he was like, okay, we're playing.
It's that simple?
It's literally that simple.
Cool.
Oh, that makes sense why it took off so much.
Yeah. It's simple, and yet oddly one of the most complicated games I've ever played. I still have no idea how to use my spells.
For sure.
Right. Yeah. Well, on that note, we're going to play. We have enough time for one game.
Alrighty.
So,
oh, man.
You guys are going to basically get to play puppeteers for me and Neil. So I'm going to hand you this bell.
Yeah. What?
So we're going to play a game called Story, Die, and this is a pretty simple game. You know, we gotta ease Neil into the whole improv world. So the way that this works is basically you're going to ding a bell to switch the storytellers. He and I are going to be telling a story, And as I'm telling the story, you can ding the bell mid-sentence, and he's got to pick it up without any hesitation whatsoever.
Oh man.
When does it end?
You decide. So we could go for 45 minutes if you wanted to. Please don't make us go for 45.
So maybe we'll do a like a 3 ring.
Yeah,
Kind of
yeah,
like
just like a ding, ding,
like a
ding,
Breaking
ding.
Bad guy in the wheelchair, like
Yeah, yeah. And then the whole stage will explode, and that's how you know that it's over.
yeah. And Gus walks out, and half of his face off.
And then Rick wakes up from Walking Dead, and we realize it was a dream.
Inside
and he
Leo
says,
DiCaprio, inside Inception.
Inside
Oh,
Inception.
Oh, man.
And he
Right
never
after-
died in
yeah,
Titanic.
exactly.
A game inside a game inside a
But
game.
Titanic is
inside a game.
something he's imagining on Shutter Island.
Oh man,
Jeez.
I think we just started.
I think
Right.
minds are being blown right now. Okay, so what I need from you two is, first of all, let's get a genre. What's a genre for a movie or a story?
Sci-fi.
Sci-fi, and now a title. A sci-fi
That's
story.
next specialty.
Man, put me on the spot.
This is the only improv you'll have to do.
Man, sorry. I'm way better
How
when I'm
about
by myself.
just think of do an ambiguous phrase.
Ambiguous phrase.
Actually, I kind of like. Sorry, I'm
as
way
we
better.
go.
Sorry, I'm way better. How about Lion Sahara?
Lion Sahara.
Lion Sahara.
Okay.
The
all right.
sci-fi.
The sci-fi movie called Lion Sahara. Okay, so we're gonna decide who should go first. You guys decide.
Brian, you're a veteran at the game, right?
It's been a while.
Do you want to start it out?
I'll start it out. Okay.
The old vet.
All right. Lions. What is it? Lion Sahara.
Lion Sahara.
Okay, so this is a.
like a dishonest?
I don't know. You guys.
We don't know.
You get to decide.
All right. Oh man. I'm also super rusty because we haven't really warmed up too much, so we'll see how this goes. All right, so this is a sci-fi movie called Lion Sahara. There was once a lion roaming the Sahara. He was a lonely lion, and he was looking for a friend.
He found a mouse who was from Mars. Came to the world in a small spaceship built for small mouse aliens when he saw the lion. He couldn't believe that he saw the lion because in his world, lions weren't real. And
In his world, lions were actually gods. So in his mind, he was seeing a god for the first time. He jumped out of his spaceship, and he said a whole bunch of squeaking sounds because he's a mouse and he can't speak English. But then the lion looked at him and smiled.
the lion said, "Hello, Mr. Mouse from planet Mars. I'm the lion from the Sahara. Here's the deal. You're an alien. I don't know if I believe in aliens, but I know that I'm a lion, and I like to play with mice because I'm a cat."
So the lion started playing with the mouse, which essentially was him batting the mouse around like a ball of yarn, like a cat. And the mouse was so excited because he thought that God was playing with him. And he didn't know what to do because it was kind of painful.
Then another mouse from planet Mars comes with an incredible mutagen, and the mouse turns into Master Splinter. And this is when Master Splinter comes in hardcore after being almost eaten by the terrible lion. Well, maybe he's not a terrible lion. He's almost a terrible lion, and he decides that Master Splinter is incredibly good at karate.
The lion accidentally rolled in the same mutagen, and suddenly he became a sentient being as well. And so the most epic karate battle of all time began to cross the Sahara between the mutant mouse and the mutant lion.
And when they realize that, no one will ever accept them on the world that they live in now, they decided to become friends, and they went back to Mars together, where they found love at last on planet Mars.
Well done.
Well, that was bonkers.
Hey, I would watch it.
So that's your, there's your next movie
Okay,
right
yeah.
there.
Wow.
Did you get that, Brian?
I took all the notes I
Okay.
could.
Yeah, mutant mice and
I was
lions
visualizing it.
and
I think
stuff.
like we said, we're already casting. So if you
Yeah.
two would like to play the lion and the mouse,
Boom.
Yep. We have your headshot, Neil. Now.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely,
yeah.
yes.
That was our audition.
for the part of the
Yeah.
lion because of your mane.
My main.
Yeah.
Yes. I could
Wow.
I could be a mutagen lion.
Yeah.
I feel like I could play it well.
All right, so plug yourselves online. Where can we find you guys online? Social media
Nick?
and whatnots.
Well, social media wise, I'm actually off social media now. So the only
I noticed that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Good for you.
That
Thank
is
you.
amazing.
I appreciate that. So yeah, you can just check out my work at nickdillard.com. So latest work and stuff like that, you can find it there.
Nice.
I am only really on Instagram, so that's just Brian Laws. And then my Vimeo page, which I have a trailer for Tempo, if anyone wants to watch that.
Yours.
And a trailer for a film me and Nick did a couple years back called Home Again, is if you just go to my site, it's brianlaws.co. It'll forward to the Vimeo page in the meantime. And then eventually I will have a site up, but for now, it just makes it easier to tell people that.
Sweet.
And giving them a Vimeo URL, so.
And you guys can also check out the link to the preview for Tempo on our website at okieshowshow.com. And you can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter at okieshowshow, which we have posted right here on a piece of paper with gaff tape because we're classy. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much it. Neil, where can we find you online?
We can find me on Instagram at NeilNewbie95, and I'm also on Facebook.
Yes. And that's it. We will see you guys in the next 2 weeks. Okay. Bye.
See ya.
That's it. There we go.
Sweet.
Sweet. Thank you.
Thank you guys. That was
great, man. That was like the perfect timing on that.
Did that work for everything you guys were hoping to talk about?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
That was great.
Okay. I try not to be too long-winded with it. So.
Well, you guys